Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our user group session today. Thanks for registering and joining. We had a fairly robust and insightful conversation last week at the face-to-face session. And so today we just wanted to walk you through some of the recent updates that have taken place on the platform, but also provide you with some information on how you can find out exactly what's going on with these updates, when they happen, when you can expect to see them live on your instance of Eloqua, and just provide you with some general tips as we go through the process. So let's have a look at our agenda for today. So the first thing we want to do is make you aware of the actual update schedule and how that takes place and give you an idea of the frequency, etc. Also, so you know exactly when and what's being updated on the platform. And we'll walk through a couple of recent updates that have taken place. An important part of the update process is not just the core platform of Eloqua, but also the apps that are available. And we had some interesting insight on some of the apps from the session last week, so I'll share those with you as well as we move through the discussion. And then, of course, we'll have some Q&A at the end, so hopefully you'll have some robust discussions and questions that you want to get through at the end of the session. Okay, the update schedule. So the update schedule, the first thing you need to understand is that the updates to the platform take place twice per quarter. The actual dates depend on your pod, and we'll explain what your pod is and how you can know which pod your instance of Eloqua is on in just a few moments. Updates take place in two parts, and as we said, there's the core changes to the platform itself. So Eloqua itself is receiving updates twice a quarter. But then there's also the hundreds of apps that are available. And so with the updates to the core platform, there are then often needs or it's needed that changes are obviously then made also to some of the various apps that are available. But in both instances, the platform itself and also the apps are updated twice per quarter. So how do you find out this information? How do you know what's going on? Well, the easiest way is to look into Topliners. And so Topliners, if you don't have an account, I'd encourage you to certainly create an account for yourself. You can see there, if you just simply go to topliners.com, once you try to get started, it'll acknowledge you don't have an account, and so then it'll bring you to this screen, and you can use that button there at the bottom called Create an Account. It's a fairly painless process to go through. There's a lot of questions, but in a couple of minutes, once you've been through that, you'll have access to everything you need. And that's actually your Oracle ID. So that gives you access right across other areas of oracle.com. Not Eloqua, obviously, that's separate, but a lot of the marketing collateral and other bits and pieces that you'll find across oracle.com, you'll be able to use that exact same account to access. Once you're in Topliners, you'll arrive at a screen that looks something just like this. And up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, you'll be able to see your login information. And so you can see here that I'm actually logged in, etc. There's some messages there waiting for me that I should be looking at, etc. But what you want to do is go straight to the big red button on the right-hand side at the top, which is the Oracle Marketing Cloud Customer button. Once you click on that, you'll be brought to a screen that looks something like this. And over on the left-hand side, you will find information that relates specifically to Eloqua. And in the context of today's conversation, we're wanting to look specifically at release information. Now, you'll notice here all of the Oracle Marketing Cloud products are covered. So if your organization is also using Responses or perhaps the Blue Kai product, Maximizer, and also Compendium, you'll find information here on all of those. So there's quite a bit of information here to look at beyond just simply Eloqua. And if you have more products than Eloqua within the Marketing Cloud, again, this is the place that you would come in order to find that information. Okay, so we're focusing, as I said, over here on the top left-hand corner on release information. So once we click through on that, just increase that screen size a little bit so you can hopefully see that a little bit easier. Okay, so that's how you find out all of the information, and we'll go through and have a look now at what that information actually looks like. Now, there is another way that you can access that information, not just simply through Topliners, but also from the Eloqua Help Center. And I'll show you in just a moment and remind you how you can actually find that specific information. Okay, so let's have a look now. So we've clicked on the Release Center information, and the first time you do this, you may have to request access to this particular part, and then the administrators, the community managers within Topliners will provide you with access. But once you arrive in here, it always gives you the most current information that's coming, and so you can see there's a little bit of an introduction. right there. And the key thing that you'll notice is that there's a number of resources. So there's video information that you can see right here. So you can go to the YouTube channel and you'll certainly find information there. In addition to that, there's what they call the product briefing series. And so there you can watch replays, etc., and additional information, and you can click through and find out what's going on there. But you'll notice when we look down the bottom here on the left-hand side under the release highlights, that they're broken into two parts. There's the Eloqua release itself, and in this case, this is a screenshot taken just in the last day or so. And so it's showing release number 487, which is taking place between the 4th of April and the 23rd of April. So why the time span? So the time span is because there are now something like, I think we're up to 8 or 9 pods of Eloqua. And so pods are basically just giant servers with lots of different Eloqua customers sitting on them. And those pods are actually located in various areas around the world. But we'll show you in just a moment how you find the right information. So the first one you'll see that at the top, as we've got highlighted, is the actual core platform itself. And then below that, you'll see the apps releases. And so the apps release is release 231, and they're all happening on the 3rd of March. And so considering it's now the 21st of March, all of those apps have actually been updated on this particular round. So any changes that we look at today are actually already in effect, which is good news. Then they load this nice little GIF over here on the right-hand side. It's just it's a little GIF. It just kind of rotates through on some of the key things. It's not a video per se. It's just a GIF, and just gives you a little bit of an overview of some of the highlights and the key things that are taking place. Let's have a look at the schedule. So on this particular page we're looking at right now, if you were to scroll down, you would see a table that looks something like this. And this gives you an outline of the actual release dates themselves and what they look like. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's the actual platform itself again, so the actual release 487 for Eloqua with all the relevant dates, etc., when it starts, when it ends, etc., and also which pod that they're on. And then on the right-hand side, the reason for the highlight there, Marketing Cube is on pod number 1, and we actually get everything last on pod 1, but that's okay. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see the apps release details, etc., and then again, identifying our pod, which is pod 1, you can see that we'll get that on the 31st of March. So this weekend, Sunday the 23rd, is the core platform update for Marketing Cube on pod 1, and then on March 31st, the apps, etc. So there must be more app changes because, as we said in the previous one, they said March 3rd, so there must be additional changes or updates taking place as well. But the key thing here is, well, what on earth or which pod are you on? Well, it's actually quite easy to know. You may know it already, but if you don't know it, it's actually contained in the URL. So once you've actually logged into Eloqua, the pod number is shown in the actual in the URL right here. So let me just highlight that for you so you can see it. So it'll be either pod 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's it. That's all we have, I think, on the previous screen. Let me just go back. Pod 7. Yeah, so we go up to pod 7. Pod 7 is actually sitting in Australia. So that's how you identify which pod you're on, and that's how you know when the relevant updates are taking place. Because it is a SaaS product, so a software as a service product, these updates generally are very seamless. So you'll basically leave work on a Friday, and when you come back on a Monday, those updates will have taken place over the weekend. And unless there's dramatic changes, like I think it was, February or so last year, where we saw an actual cosmetic change to the interface, otherwise you probably would have no idea that those relevant updates have taken place, unless, of course, you're receiving information from Marketing Cube just to give you a little bit of an update on some of the various things that are happening and updates that are taking place. So that's how you find out when the updates are taking place. That's how you find out what the updates are that are taking place. But what we wanted to do today as well was just look at some of the recent updates. It's very easy for this great functionality to be added to the platform and for us to sort of merrily work away and not actually be aware that there's potentially a better way to be doing things. And so part of our job, obviously, is to help make you aware as to what's changed. So let's just revisit for a minute. There's another way that you can access Topliners and also the release center information. And I imagine there's every chance you've seen, obviously, the information sitting here in Eloqua. So in the actual interface itself, once you're actually logged into Eloqua, you'll be able to access the Release Center directly from the Useful Links area, and also the Help Center, again, from the Useful Links area under Help. So the Release Center will take you straight into Topliners. Again, you will need to log in order to access that information. You can also go to the Help Center, and in the Help Center, there's a link that will take you to Topliners. Again, you'll need to log in order to access that. So there's a number of ways that you can reach that information and find it. Let's have a look at a couple of the recent updates that have taken place. This is a kind of a cool one, and for us, this will happen at the end of the month. And so this is looking at the campaign canvas. Now, depending on the complexity of the campaigns that you're building, you may in some cases have repetitive steps. So one for us that I can think of off the top of my head is often a shared list, especially in the context of an event. If we're using a shared list to capture our event registrants, we're constantly checking that shared list to make sure that if somebody has registered, we don't want to send them another invitation if they've actually already registered. And so that one step can appear 4 or 5 times on the campaign canvas. So once we receive release 487 is updated on our pod 1, we'll actually be able to copy and paste directly on the campaign canvas with those steps. So that's just a nice time saver, especially if you're doing considerable configuration. So if you're putting in a mail step, for instance, so an email going out, you might be applying signatures. You might also be applying times of day, so the scheduling, days a week, and also the window time frame that you want that email to be delivered, etc. So you better copy and paste that information now directly on the canvas, and then obviously it's probably just swap out the actual email itself within that particular step. So I'm looking forward to that one. I think that's a great update. Let's have a look at another one. So program canvas enhancements. I'm not sure how many of you would be using the program canvas right now. The program canvas is an update to what we know today as simply programs. So programs are ways that Eloqua enables you to take certain information from the platform. And one of the major objectives of a program is generally to put information through the CRM. So if your system is automatically pushing leads through to the CRM, it's using a program to do that. The program canvas is a much nicer interface to play with. It looks very similar to the campaign canvas, hence the similar name, and it does a range of things. Tim has been working on a couple of programs for us at Marketing Cube, one of which is just a nice one to help from a data cleansing point of view, and it utilizes on the program canvas what we call a listening step. And so the listening step enables Eloqua to, at regular intervals, listen for example, the creation of a new contact. So if a new contact comes into Eloqua, the program that Tim has created, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Tim, but the program that Tim has created enables Eloqua to then find that contact. It looks very specifically at the first name and the last name. And what we're wanting to do is just to improve the data quality to make sure that both first name and last name are in fact proper case. So not lowercase or all uppercase, but just proper case. So that means that our comms going out should hopefully never be screaming at anybody by calling them Derek, for instance, in all uppercase. So that's just one nice way that the program canvas can help you manage the quality of your data, and is a great way to improve the overall experience that you're delivering. So this particular enhancement that you can see right here is looking at adding and moving custom object records to Program Builder from the program canvas. So with the more custom objects that you might have connected to Eloqua, so a typical one that you would have connected would be the opportunity object from within the CRM. Eloqua sees that as a custom object or a custom data object, and so this is now giving you more flexibility to do that as well. Now, most of you, or not all of you, but many of you might have access to the new insight, and so you can see here there's been a range of new reports that have been added to that. That's still currently under controlled availability, I think it is. So if you wanted to have access to the new insight reports, you'll notice that in Eloqua Insight is now referred to as Classic Insight. And what was a menu that simply said Insight, the menu is now called Analytics. So under Analytics, you'll have dashboards and Classic Insight. If you want access to the new Insight, while it's still in control availability, you will need to raise a service request with Oracle. And it's our understanding at this stage what they're doing is providing you with no more than 5. It's actually assigned to users within the platform, and at the moment they're assigning no more than 5 licenses per instance. So let's have a think through who in the team kind of needs access for that demo period. It does contain real data. The other thing is we also understand that it's the full-blown version of Insight. So Insight comes in two levels. One is everybody gets access to Insight as an Eloqua user. Then there's another product called Insight Analyzer. And so Analyzer is a richer interface that comes for a fee that enables you to create lots of different reports and dashboards, etc., that you may want to tailor. So just be aware that you will get access to the full-blown Insight Analyzer. However, once it becomes generally available and part of the core platform, those access levels will be pulled back to the standard Insight. It's quite a good strategy, obviously, on Oracle's behalf. So get you excited about it, and then hopefully you'll want to buy it. But you'll find generally, of course, that the regular Insight reports are generally more than enough of what you need. The other area that's seeing some enhancements is hopefully you've had some time. I think it was in February, last month, we spoke about the new dashboards, or we ran a separate session, I think it was, on the dashboards. At the moment, there are 4 dashboards available. However, we have 2 new dashboards coming. One is overall form performance, and the other is lead scoring model comparison. So if you're running multiple lead scoring models, that would become extremely helpful. I don't have access to those just yet to show you, but you should see them coming shortly through these updates. Another one that provides or requires probably a little bit more thinking music is form pre-population in core Eloqua. So there are some people that may be using, if you've been using Eloqua for quite some time, you may be using the old form population app that Eloqua had produced. However, with the change of the way those apps work, etc., that particular app is being retired, and so there's some changes in play. And the deadline there, I think, is being deprecated. I do like that word for some reason. Deprecated as of the 31st of March. Now, if you're not using the app, nothing for you to worry about. There's no dramas there. However, what's actually changing is the key thing, and this is kind of cool. What you'll be able to do now, if you've been using forms for quite some time and have been using them extensively, you'll know that there are a couple of limitations around checkboxes. One of which is you can't have a checkbox currently pre-populate. So if you have information stored on the contacts that potentially, and in this example that they've given here, talks around preferences, you may have preferences around the types of communications. Maybe you're interested in investment strategies. Maybe you're interested in retirement, income planning, etc. Maybe you're interested in stock market updates, those sorts of things. And so they typically would be displayed on the contacts usually as a tick box. However, when you present that information via a form on an Eloqua landing page, if the contact has in fact already ticked that box, you're unable to then display that on the landing page as a ticked box. All of the boxes would remain unticked. So it can get a little bit confusing for the user being the customer, that is. So now you'll be able to do that. So you'll be able to pre-populate forms with checkboxes, as you can see we've got highlighted right there. And an obvious benefit to this is being able to present the contact's current subscription status as well. So if that matches up, for instance, with your email groups and your various subscriptions, that will enhance the experience when someone visits your preference center. So that's very cool, and that's available now. So if you've got any questions on that one, or you think you may need to make some changes potentially to your preference center and want to make sure you're taking advantage of that, just please contact the support team with support@marketingcube.com.au, and they'll be able to assist you with that information. We're literally going through the process ourselves at Marketing Cube, redoing our own preference center. So I'll be able to show that to you hopefully next month. Now, a key part as well with all of this, these updates, for instance, that are taking place is the App Store. And the App Store can sometimes kind of get forgotten, especially as an average user of the system. Unless you are using apps on a regular basis, it's easy sort of to forget what's actually available. So the App Store, it was interesting last week when we met together with the face-to-face session. We had a client in the room who does a lot of marketing from a real estate point of view, specifically, obviously around Australia and New Zealand, but also into China and Hong Kong. And so for them, across their social strategy, WeChat plays a significant part in that exercise. We just randomly went to the App Store, we typed in WeChat, and we discovered there's actually an app in there. So I'll show that to you in just a moment. Let's have a look at where we find out a little bit more about the apps and what's going on. The Help Center is certainly one place you can go to, and you'll notice once you're in the Help Center, there's actually a menu option here on the left-hand side of the screen, so under the Contents area, which covers apps. So which apps are included here and which aren't? Generally, my understanding is the apps that you'll see listed here, and basically these are user guides telling you how to install it, then how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. These are Oracle apps. So even though you can see here WebEx and GoToWebinar, they're obviously not Oracle products at the moment, the app to actually connect Eloqua to WebEx and to GoToWebinar has been developed by the Oracle team. So that's why you're seeing them listed here, for instance. And so it walks you through a whole range of those, and you can access all the information you need on how to install it, and then obviously how to configure it and how to use it, etc., as you go through. But if you actually scroll down on this particular page, you'll find a link that will take you to the Oracle Cloud Marketplace, and that's what the Oracle Cloud Marketplace looks like. When you first come into the area, you'll need to access this menu under Products and then select Marketing Cloud. You want to make sure you're looking at apps, obviously, that work with Eloqua. And then once you're in here, down the left-hand side, there's a whole range of options that you can select. So you can choose apps that are free. You can then, if you scroll down a little bit further here, you'll be able to tick on Eloqua, Responses, any of those Marketing Cloud products, for instance, that are in there. One of the first ones we want to look at is the Oracle Date app, just as an example. So it gives you an overview of how it actually works. It allows Eloqua Date app allows marketers to have contacts flow down the correct path in a campaign or program based on a date. Now, the clear winner for that particular app will be events. Events are nice because there's a fixed date and time. That's the date and time of the actual event itself. The Date app will help you configure and control who gets sent what. So if you have emails, for instance, that say, we're 3 weeks out from the world's greatest event, you want to make sure that people only get that email 3 weeks out. You don't want them getting that email 2 weeks out or 1 week out or the day before, for instance. This particular app is free and can be added to your instance. You will need administrator access in order to configure and add the apps to your system. You can actually do this from within Eloqua itself as well. So there's a link within Eloqua in the system admin area under apps that will bring you directly to the marketplace. Now, these pages are all very standard in the way that they're laid out. There's usually 3 tabs across the top, for instance. Of course, they want you to share it socially. It gives you an idea about any ratings, etc. Cost, obviously where the product fits. It's a Marketing Cloud product, etc. But further down, if we scroll down, what you're looking for specifically is the application properties, and you want to make sure that it says Oracle Eloqua, for instance. And so this user guide, if I click on user guide, that will take us back to the Oracle Help Center that we're looking at just a moment ago. And you'll see we're on version 1.0, etc., and you can view any updates. And then at the very bottom there, you can see the system requirements are Eloqua 10. So basically that information matches in with that information right there. Now, the interesting chat that we had last week was specifically, no pun intended, was WeChat. This particular app is currently available under a controlled availability, is our understanding. We've loaded a request with the Oracle Product Marketing team for a client to have access to WeChat and explore it. Now, what's really interesting is there's obviously some people out there who are using the app already as part of the controlled availability program. And I know that because I looked at the ratings area. It was really interesting. So 4 people have rated it already. So, I mean, not thousands, but 4 people have rated it, and they've all rated it 5 stars. So that was very cool. And the other thing I noticed was that these folks who are rating it appear to be of Chinese background. And that's, to me, a great endorsement. So if they're happy with the product, and you'll see they've got easy to use, good performance, great, enhance the function of Eloqua, etc. Nice comments there, seamlessly integrated with WeChat, etc. So some great feedback. So if you do use these apps and you feel so inclined as to provide some feedback about the particular apps, it's really helpful for everybody else in the ecosystem as well. So please take some time to come back and have a look at these apps. But there is a whole swag of free apps, as we talked about a little bit earlier. For many of our clients, we try to add those free apps to your instances so they're available for you. And if you feel there's benefit in maybe, I think last year we did a user group session focusing on the apps. If you feel maybe that's a good time to revisit and do it again, we'd be happy to do that for you. Or if you do have any questions about any of those various apps, certainly shoot us a note, and please, we'll be more than happy to go through those answers for you. I had an interesting scenario just to give you an idea of how beneficial some of the apps can be. We had a demo with a potential client a few weeks ago here in Sydney, and just as a part of the process, we showed them the marketplace and just sort of started to navigate around, just give them a little bit of an idea as to what was available. And all of a sudden there was this squeal from the back of the room. And one of the girls had pointed out that there was an app available for Eloqua, which is an app that they currently use. And that particular app, which I cannot remember the name of, but that particular app is sort of an enterprise social tool for large organizations who want to encourage their staff to share marketing content through their social channels. And what the app does, it creates sort of a ranking system. So employee comes in, finds the relevant content, shares it into their LinkedIn account perhaps, or their Facebook or their Twitter profile, etc. And the app actually keeps track of shares and clicks and likes, etc. And so it becomes a bit of a competition effectively until you become a ranker or you become ranked within the app, etc. And I assume they then have prizes, rewards, etc., free lunches or whatever it is, etc. And so what she was excited about was the fact that that app now actually connected with Eloqua and integrated with Eloqua, which she saw as a benefit because then whatever content they're sharing or creating within Eloqua would also be able to flow into this particular campaign they've got from an internal point of view. So the best way to understand what's available is just simply to go to the App Store, have a little navigate around, and just see what's available. You'd be surprised. Last time I checked, there was something like 450 or 500 apps, and the list just keeps growing. So it's certainly a good place to go to look at how you can extend some of the functionality within the platform. Folks, that probably brings us to an end today, which is kind of cool, right? It's only 10:30, so a nice short half-hour session today. So I'll leave you to go forth and automate, but before we do that, do you have any questions in relation to what we've talked about today? All right, guys. Well, look, thanks so much for joining us this month online. Keep in mind our YouTube channel contains replays, and this replay will be posted probably by the end of this week, etc. All of our notes will be captured on our blog post as well, and so we'll get that information to you by next week. So thanks very much for attending. We'll see you next month for the Eloqua user group. Thanks again, everybody.